origins of sexual orientation. According to the American Psychological Association, there is no consensus among scientists regarding the exact reasons why a person develops a particular sexual orientation. The essential argument comes down to a nature versus nurture. Is sexual orientation something people are born with, or is it a learned trait? Many argue that sexual orientation is something we inherit through a combination of our parents' genetic material, and is therefore uncontrollable, just as random eye or hair color. Opponents would argue that sexual orientation is derived from poor parent-child relations, sexual abuse, and heavy influence from pro-gay organizations, or that one simply chooses to be straight or homosexual. Does one choose their sexual orientation, or is it out of their control? We will be needing a 6-minute speech from Aaron Burkhart from Apple Valley. Can I elect your timekeeper? Yep.
Alright, before I begin, I'd like to say that I was assigned this position shortly before Congress, and these may or may not represent my actual views. So, this has been a long-standing hot topic in recent years. I probably wasn't even alive when this was first talked about, but it's always going to be a hot question until somebody can prove it one way or the other. Is sexual orientation a choice we make as human beings, a conscious, cognitive decision, or is it a born, given trait, a behavior? There's credible arguments to both sides. There are absolutely total crap pieces to both sides. But the reason that sexual orientation is more likely than not a choice, number one, the psychological concept of hardwiring. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of that before. But what hardwiring is, it doesn't just pertain to sexual orientation, but rather any learned behavior your brain can pick up. What happens with hardwiring is that you perform an activity, or you pick up a new habit, or something like that. And as you do it more and more, it becomes more natural to your brain to do it. And when it comes to sexual orientation, hardwiring can come into play as maybe developing romantic feelings for another man or for another woman, depending on your gender out there. Or perhaps performing in that activity with another man or another woman. Moving on. In addition to hardwiring, influence from outside sources can also play a role on your brain. Maybe not to the extent of direct hardwiring, but influence from those around you. Because let's face it, I'm pretty sure all of us, at least at one point in our lives, have wondered, okay, what sexual orientation am I? I think we've all been there at least once in our lives. And so as you're wondering that, maybe when you're confused and you don't know what you are, you're more malleable to different impressions. When you know what you are, and somebody tries, if you're straight and you know you're straight, and somebody tries to tell you you're gay, you're not going to believe them. You're going to tell them, no, I very much like women, or no, I very much like men, thank you very much. Or if, conversely, if you're gay and somebody tells you, no, you're probably actually straight, they can probably give a whole laundry list of reasons why they're actually gay. But when you're confused, when you're questioning, as some would say, your brain is more malleable to certain opinions, to certain beliefs. Things can be more easily construed one way or the other. So if somebody asks you, are you gay or are you straight, and you say, I don't know, other people who have varying political opinions on whether they believe sexual orientation is a choice or whether they believe they're born with it, the more they get to know that person, the more they're going to probably, consciously or not, going to try to convince them whether they're one way or the other. The human brain is exceptionally sensitive to things like these, which is why it can be very credibly argued that sexual orientation is a choice. Again, these may or may not represent my actual views. I was assigned this topic shortly before this block, so I will now yield my time to any questions.
Oh, we have, yeah, sorry, 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
Okay, do we have any questions for the speaker?
Yes. Can you gloss over whether you stated hardwiring, what hardwiring is and why it results in sexual orientation as a choice?
The theory of hardwiring is that one way or the other, if you perform a certain activity, you start feeling things a certain way. The more you do that, the more your brain is going to adapt to that. And the more your brain adapts to it, the more your brain will view it as natural. That's how the theory of hardwiring can apply to this.
When you say sexual orientation is a choice, what are you saying to those 13-year-olds, those teen boys and women that are right now faced with that decision if they are gay or they're straight? And when you're saying that over time, eventually, they will have influences that determine whether they are gay or straight, what do you say about those people, those teens, that are right now openly saying that they are gay or straight?
Well, to the teens who already know what they are, there's really no telling them what they are one way or the other because they know. They inwardly know what they are, so nobody's going to be telling them one way or the other. To the people who are still questioning, like you first said, what would I say to them? I would tell them that no matter what anybody tells you, it's ultimately your life. And whether it's a choice or whether you're born with it, eventually they're going to discover one way or the other. So, regardless of the outcome of this debate, regardless of the outcome of scientific research, inwardly, it's within them. Whether it be the choice they make within themselves or whether it be the born trait that eventually comes out within them.
What are your comments on small children who show certain mannerisms at a young age?
It's interesting that you bring that up because actually in my psychology class we just talked about the habits of small children when we were discussing Sigmund Freud. And as we all know, Freud theorized that children are sexual from birth. So I would have to say that small children who develop certain tendencies, I wouldn't give that much scientific weight because the Oedipus complex and the Electra complex, among others, have actually been disproven.
All right, Chair Phillips. Okay, thank you, Aaron. Now, Joe, you're here. Now,
Yeah.
I will give you first con speech because our actual speaker is here.
Okay.
So, just you come up here, give your con speech first. You're gonna be main speaker now, and then you can be subsequent. So, we have a 6-minute speech from Joe Crosson.
Alright, where's the timekeeper? Alright, perfect. Alright, I just want to start off by saying that first off, I adamantly believe that sexuality is not a choice and that it's kind of been innate with us from our birth. And I have just a couple of things I want to go over. First of all, we've already mapped out the human genome in the idea where people even say, oh, well, we're not sure whether it's choice, whether it's in your genes, etc. We've already proven, so through scientific research, we've mapped out where the gay gene is. And we haven't seen it only in humans, we've seen it with animals as well. So this isn't just like a only human sort of aspect. Now, second point. Like I said, my name is Joe Crosson. I'm from Servite High School. I spent the past 4 years with only guys. Since right now, we've had plenty of Man Love Thursdays, and I've embraced my men very proudly. Now, on that point though, I wouldn't say that I'm gay. Because I hate to say a lot of times, the tendencies that we have towards the opposite sex in which we feel attracted, it's anthropological. Well, you feel something, a serious attraction towards another person, whether or not it's a girl or a guy. Now again, I spent 4 years with these guys and I've loved them in so many ways. However, I haven't really loved them in the sense where I haven't had that sort of affection. I have had, basically, I do have a girlfriend right now and I feel something for her that I haven't felt with any other guy that I have experienced before. It's the idea where I'm not just choosing to say, you know what, I'll just go with this for this. There's an innate feeling that we all feel in that sense where you can't necessarily fake that. Now I know there are a lot of guys confused, guys and girls confused, more so especially either when they're children or even when they're older, the idea of which way am I going? And again, it can be really confusing knowing which tendencies really stick out and which are genuine. Now again, the idea is the fact that this has already been decided within us and we don't, again, there are guys who can say, oh, I'm straight or I'm gay, but again, the real gene behind it is something you can't fake. There is a gene that we've already shown through the Genome Project that exists within us and that we can't fake that or we can't just choose otherwise. It's inside of us and that's basically the decision on that matter. Now again, like I said, there are many who choose to either go against what they say, but the idea of real sexuality, what you truly feel attracted towards. I know there are plenty of gay guys in my school who have a serious attraction for some of the other guys. Again, either Jimmy. Oh, Jimmy's not gay, by the way. I'm just kind of saying. All right, but seriously, on a serious note, I know plenty of guys who are gay, and again, it's the idea of, I even talk to them about this sort of matter, saying like, what do you think on the matter? And they say, you know what, it's something different. Like again, I can see girls and I don't see them the same way that you do, or vice versa. It's that there's something inside of us, anthropologically, that exists before we're born. It's where we get our natural instincts from, this idea that's been passed down from generation to generation, that this sort of thing is passed down. We can't necessarily make that decision for ourselves. We don't choose to be afraid of certain things when we're born. It's naturally within us. It's anthropologically passed down from our ancestors. Same as this is. Again, it's not necessarily a choice, it's what's been passed down through a gene. And how much time do I have left?
You have 3 minutes and 10 seconds.
Okay, that's basically all I have to say on that matter, and I'll just give the rest of my time to questions.
Question.
I just wanted to know, so if you're saying that sexual orientation is definitely not a choice, and we've mapped out that sexuality genome, where would bisexuals fit in that?
Again, I'm not limited to only like it's only gays or only lesbians, it's more and only straight, but it's the idea where, again, it's not necessarily a choice in that, where there could be a combination in our genes that allows us to go and seek out the anthropologically both sexes. Again, this is part of our genes. It's not like, you know what, I want to go for that and that. It's not that sort of thing. It's already in the us.
Philip.
Again, that's actually a good point, where there are a lot of people, I'm not saying that you'll know immediately whether or not you're gay or straight, but a lot of the times it's confusing. It takes a lot of time to really recognize as to where you really lie in the matter, and sometimes it does come out later.
Does the speaker believe that fear can be overcome?
Fear can be overcome, but the idea of innate fear, the idea, let's just say, like when we're a baby and we first come out, we have no idea of what the world is even like in a sense. Yet we're afraid of, let's just say, loud noises, large creatures with large teeth, that sort of thing. There are things naturally that have been passed down to us anthropologically. Yes?
Actually, you're only afraid of loud noises and falling.
Is there a question?
Opinion on that?
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yep.
Well, to continue what that person just said, that babies when they're born, they're inherently afraid of falling and loud noises. So what are you going to say to those adults that are all fully grown up and that made the choice to overcome their innate fear and are living happily with loud noises and aren't afraid to fall?
Well, again, it's also the idea of it's overcoming a fear versus overcoming your genes. Like, I hate to say it, like, I'm diabetic. I have the genetic disposition that basically makes it just susceptible. If I could choose so, I choose not to have that. But again, this is something that can't necessarily be affected. We've already proven before that the sexuality lies in our genes through the genome project. So again, something like fear, relatively different from something like sexuality. I just try to make it kind of branching point between those two. But again, yeah.
This is just to clarify, do you think there is any possibility that you can, like a little boy or a little girl, like they're really unsure of how they feel towards, like they don't know where they stand, but like in their teenage years, then they can figure out like, oh yeah, I'm attracted to boys or I'm attracted to girls, but in their adolescence, like they're not really sure. So, I mean, I was just wondering, like, because you said there's a gene and it's already set in stone, like you know if you're gay or not. So, my question is, if there is a gene, so you would know when you're a little kid as well?
Not necessarily. I mean, let's just take into account adolescence, where you brought up with the idea that people would just like sometimes they may know, they may not know that period. Well, adolescence is a good time where we have a lot of hormones flowing into our body, whereas back before, although Freud might say we're all sexual by birth, a lot of times it's not one of the biggest aspects of our mind. So again, it's not very that prominent in our heads. When we hit adolescence, that's when our hormones are kicking in, and that's when these things really do become a sticking point in our mind. So that's probably when you see that rising up at that point.
All right, speaker's time has expired.